Okay, welcome. Hi, my name is Greg Suddy, and this is Suddy on Soccer of Voice of the Fans. I'm here with SDSU Athletic Director John David Wicker, and we're going to speak on behalf of the San Diego Measure G on the November 6th ballot. Just to get the viewers caught up, this is a initiative for the property use of the area around San Diego State or San Diego Stadium, and there's just all kinds of exciting things going on. I thought it was right to come down here and meet with Mr. Wicker in his office here on San Diego State University. Hi, and thanks so much for inviting us down here and meeting with us. I'd like to start with asking about what is it about this specific initiative and plan that has your personal passion to be behind it, to represent it, and also if you could give us a brief outline of what is SDSU West Measure G.
I guess one of the first things to clarify is Measure G was sponsored by the Friends of SDSU, not San Diego State University. We're not, as a state institution, not allowed to sponsor a citizens initiative. The CSU Board of Trustees can endorse initiatives, and they have come out and endorsed Measure G. They feel like that's the best outcome for San Diego State University. So from my standpoint, we look at it, we have Measure G basically compels the city of San Diego, the city council, to negotiate the sale of the property with San Diego State University to establish fair market value, and the other pieces that they see need to be part of a sales agreement for the property. What we at San Diego State have been doing is developing our plan for Mission Valley should we have the opportunity to purchase the property. So SDSU Mission Valley is what that is, and that plan works for if the Measure G initiative is wins in November. We'll move forward with that plan. Or if they were both to fail and the city begins an RFP process or a negotiation, the plan that we've developed is the plan that we would use in that next step.
Interesting. Okay, so there is sort of a plan B.
Yes, so this is our plan, and this will be our plan as we look to however we have the opportunity to acquire Mission Valley. Wow. We've put a lot of time and effort and resources into developing this plan, really studying the property, the hydrology of the site, the San Diego River being there, Murphy Canyon Creek being there, and some choices they made when they originally built San Diego Stadium and how that's impacted the flooding that everyone's familiar with.
Interesting.
So we really studied that and started with the river park. The river park is, we've got over 50% of the property on site is going to be river park, other parks, open spaces, museos as you look at that. So over 50% of the site is parks and open space. And then we've got 4,600 residential units that will be developed through public-private partnerships where we will lease property to a developer and they will build the building. Okay. We'll get lease payments back from those folks, which help us fund all the things that we'll have to do with the property when we purchase it. And eventually those pieces of property, those buildings, would come back to SDSU. And, once a developer has their return on investment, we get the property back. That could be 40, 50, 60 years down the road, and then we are the owner of the property. And with those 4,600 units, we will build affordable housing on site. We won't allow the developers to pay in lieu fees. And then we'll have, we'll look at space for upper division students, so juniors, seniors, graduate students. We also want to have space for faculty and staff because obviously it's expensive to move here. So when we're out recruiting faculty and staff to bring them into campus, this is a place where we can have that they can, get their feet on the ground, understand the San Diego community, be there for a while, and then, move out if they so need to. And then, we're looking at workforce housing, and then of course we'll have market rate housing as well. We'll have 1.6 million square feet of innovation district campus, where our goal is with those buildings is we'll bring industry in to the Mission Valley campus to partner with or work alongside our researchers, our faculty, our staff, and our students. And you're seeing a lot of these innovation districts happen, around the country.
That's
Georgia
amazing.
Tech, where I was at before,
Right.
great example with Technology Square. And we've had a lot of interest from, various developers out there that do this type of thing. We just need to, we're working with our faculty right now to kind of figure out who would be the groups that we might go down there. We've got various clinics that are out there.
Right.
We've got, we've got engineering, we've got health, we've got nursing, we've got a great heart institute. So there's a lot of different pieces that could go down there, and we're still working through who that might be as we develop that piece of it. We'll do about 100,000 square feet of mixed-use retail. So that's restaurants, bars, grocery stores,
Gotcha.
coffee shops, more neighborhood serving as opposed to trying to make it a mini gas lamp and a destination.
Interesting.
That drives a ton of traffic. So
Right.
Mission Valley has its own traffic issues
Already?
right now.
Yeah.
So why create too much more that you then have to deal with?
Right.
And then lastly, we're going to build a 35,000 seat stadium that's a community first stadium.
Okay.
It's not being built for 7 Aztec football Saturdays a year. We're not Alabama. We're not Ohio State, where we can build a stadium and have 7 games a year and that pay for the stadium. So we're building a stadium that's a great hybrid for college football and for soccer.
Gotcha.
We tasked our architects. Populous is the national firm we've been working with. JMI Sports was our consultant as well. They're local. And really looked at the stadium and said, how do we make it work for both appropriately and have a good spectator venue?
Wow.
And then we also want concerts. We want any types of shows that you can have. The concourse is being designed as something that can be used on a daily basis. As you look at the picture behind you, this would be looking from the hotel conference center that will be built on site. And so envision, and obviously it's in soccer mode there. But with your hotel conference center, you could have a meeting in the hotel conference center, and then at the end of the day, you step across the street to one of the garden areas on the concourse, and you can have a happy hour, and then go next door and have a sit-down meal or something like that. So the idea is that we'll have 18 of these different areas around the concourse, around the stadium, and they can be used on a daily basis. But then, on game day, it gives you a lot of different options. One might be just a blank pad and you pull in food trucks. So you have different food trucks for every game. And then the next one might be, think Liberty Station converted shipping containers. So something, cool and experiential.
Right.
And then one can be kind of a traditional concessions area. And then you can have one sponsored by a craft brewery. And so we're really looking to make it, the experience, a great experience. So people want to come to the stadium.
So now San Diego State University, obviously, and this is in your department, this is the keynote of the whole thing for you personally.
For athletics, yes, the stadium is very important, but I would argue the academic side is very important as well.
Well, I mean, maybe, depending upon where you are, even more so. It depends on who you are and what your deal is. But I mean, this is an exciting view of what's going on. San Diego State soccer and San Diego State football.
I don't know that it would be every soccer match for our men and women, but we would certainly look to play soccer matches down there. Lacrosse could play in there as well. And the other nice thing is you start talking about NCAA championships.
Right.
You could host both soccers in here. You could host FCS football.
Right.
You could do the lacrosse championships. There's so many different championship events at the NCAA level that you could do in this facility.
Just off subject a little bit, I mentioned when we first came in that this last weekend I was at the National Soccer Hall of Fame induction ceremony. One of the things that was really cool going into the soon-to-be publicly open National Soccer Hall of Fame was Marcelo Balboa and Eric Winalda, both in there. And I was an avid fan Aztec Stadium watching those guys play back in the day. And Craig Childs is currently with the San Diego Sockers, and he's an alum here at San Diego State. So there's a lot of interest, within the soccer community as to see San Diego State have this kind of a facility. So now, back on track. I understand that this is a sale The other measure is lease. Can you talk to me a little bit about the advantage of the sale aspect of Measure G?
Yeah, I mean, the other one is a lease with the ability to purchase property. So the other guys can purchase up to 79.9 acres of the property.
Well, we're talking over 130 acres, though.
This would be 132 acres that would be sold to San Diego State. And you know, I think from a sales standpoint, that allows us to, one, control the site. We're able to, from a institutional standpoint, develop it in a manner where we see fit, and know that at the end of 99 years or whatever your lease term is, all of a sudden, we really value the property and there's a lot of improvements on there. Your lease is going to change significantly or whatever it may be. So we look at this as the opportunity to really go in and develop the site and develop it appropriately and correctly.
Into perpetuity.
In perpetuity. I mean, again, as we look at the campus, we're 121 years old. San Diego State is.
Right.
We plan on being here at least another 121 years. We're landlocked on the mesa here.
Yeah.
So we're really looking at a place to grow, and being a $5.67 billion economic engine to San Diego, we're obviously incredibly valuable to the community as a whole.
No kidding.
So why wouldn't we, we want to be able to invest in Mission Valley and be able to grow our student enrollment, be able to grow the number of graduates that we're putting into the San Diego marketplace. We're over 60% of our alumni already live in San Diego County in the region.
Right.
So there could just be that many more appropriately educated folks going into the workforce to help drive this economy.
Yeah, you mentioned the enrollment. On my way in, we were talking about that. So apparently there was 100,000 applicants, roughly.
When you get into,
100,000 applicants?
Yep.
And what's the current enrollment population of San Diego State?
We're at about 35,000 students. So
just wow.
Yeah,
that's just wow.
Why wouldn't you want to come to San Diego?
Well, yeah, and that was another part of the conversation that we were having was people want to live here.
Yep.
People want to go to school here. It is that destination. I'm a native here. We were talking about that earlier, and I've traveled all over the world, and this is where you want to come back.
Yeah.
This is home. Now, are you prepared to talk a little bit at all about what the possible tax issues are concerning SDSU West? How does it play into the taxes? That's such a big issue with what happened. I think people are just have a bad taste from what happened with the San Diego Chargers.
Right. Well, there's no taxpayer funds will be utilized to purchase the property, build out the property. The great thing is the CSU is a very stable
California State University.
Yeah, California State University system. Very stable financial system.
Right.
With the ability to bond
for
revenue or for money. So we would, with the purchase of the property, we would use revenue bonds from the California State University system to build, to basically get the site prepped to build. So we would take care of, we call it the horizontal, so that someone could come in and build the vertical.
Okay.
So basically, we would get it ready so a developer could come in and just start building their building up, and using that bond money to do that. And then as we lease the property to these different developers, we use that lease money to come back and help pay off those revenue bonds. So it's just like borrowing money from a bank. It's just the CSU is issuing the bonds. As we look at the stadium, we'll use revenue bonds for that as well for parts of it. We'll use monies coming from the sale of tickets, premium areas, your naming rights, things like that.
Absolutely.
And then there'll be some philanthropic pieces as well to get us to the number that we need to build the stadium, which right now we're saying is $250 million. As you look at, there's this discussion out there that, if San Diego State gets their hands on the property, they'll never pay taxes at all. And that's patently false.
Okay.
Because we will be leasing the property to private developers, they'll pay not property taxes, it's called possessory interest taxes, which was actually a point that came up the other day. If the other plan is leasing the property from the city of San Diego. Then they're collecting possessory interest tax too. They're not collecting property tax because it's a public piece of property.
Gotcha.
So because it's not privatized.
Interesting.
So we'll still be collecting taxes on all the residential pieces. We'll be collecting taxes on some or all of the campus pieces that are that are developed, and then obviously all the sales taxes that go through, any of the mixed-use retail, and then what you're doing with the stadium and all those types. So we will be generating a nice return to the city in the form of those taxes, and then again, the economic impact continues to grow. The more people we graduate from San Diego State, those people are moving into the San Diego economy. They're spending dollars, they're generating property tax, they're generating, state of California taxes, all those different types of things. So it just continues to grow.
That's very cool. So now I understand that the sale of the development plan won't be certain until after a campus master plan revision is done, an environmental quality review is done, and the board of Cal State University approves it. Let's talk about is that all true?
No.
Okay.
So you've got some of it, yes. I mean, I guess timeline would be most important. So our timeline is, best case scenario, is that we would, if Measure G is successful, we would begin negotiations with the city of San Diego immediately on the sale of the property. The city council, as the initiative requires. And hopefully that would take somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 14 months is kind of what we're planning on. So around the January 1st, 2020, we would hopefully be right in that neighborhood, be finalizing a sales agreement with the city, which the CSU Board of Trustees would also have to sign off on. Meanwhile, we would be doing our CEQA process, our environmental impact review, would be moving in a parallel track with that, and that takes about 12 to 14 months. And we've built, so our last campus master plan, there were some legal challenges to it and some other pieces. And it just got basically, it went all the way to the California Supreme Court, and we had to make some changes. So while that 10 years, while that master plan has been running through the court process, we've built over $500 million worth of projects on campus. So actually probably more than that. That's the last 5 years we've done over $500 million. So we're going to be able to start developing the land without going out and doing the entire master plan process all over again. The Board of Trustees has the ability to approve these things as they come up, these different buildings. So the Board of Trustees would, certify the land sale. They would certify our environmental impact review. And so that's early 2020. And we would put a shovel in the ground.
There's a lot of consecutive time. There's a lot of consecutive action going on during the same period of time. It's not necessarily all this having to be done ahead of any one thing.
So we could start, first quarter of 2020, we're building the River Park and we're putting a shovel in the ground for the stadium, because you need to build the new stadium before you can knock down the old stadium, which is really a key trigger to the development over the rest of the property as you start talking about residential and the innovation campus.
That's right. So I'm just going to go through a couple of bullet points here, and a lot of these you've already touched on. Of course, the joint use stadium, 35,000 seats roughly.
That's our plan, yes.
That's perfect for Major League Soccer.
I think so.
Public trails and open spaces. Are we talking about the River Park in that statement?
Yes. So we've got, I think it's over 4 miles of trails. You've got one that circumnavigates the entire site. You'll have trails through certain parts of the River Park as well. It will be accessible to the community. There'll be the parking, you'll have parking.
Interesting point.
You'll have parking for the campus.
Interesting point.
You'll have parking for the residential. So the residential will all be self-parked. They won't be counting on, I need street parking or I've got to go park elsewhere. Each building has its own parking taken care of. The stadium would utilize the parking that comes with the campus, so kind of think Petco downtown and how that works out. And then we'll have parking, we'll have some surface parking, and then we'll have parking a couple different places so community can drive in to access the park if they need to. And then you've got the trolley station that sits right there as well.
You mentioned academic and administrative buildings, classrooms. So this is an actual hope to, if not plan to, at least hope to expand actual building utilization for here at SDSU.
Yeah, I mean, the plan is that, you know,
it's a real expansion of the university.
You've got 1.6 million square feet that'll be dedicated to, you know, the expansion of the university, and really looking at it from a, you know, a research and innovation and, you know, incubator and startups and things like that, where you've got university personnel involved with what's happening there, but then you've also got some commercial, some industry in there that are, you know, sitting right next to it. It's basically an SDSU person and an industry person sitting next to each other, and they get to, you know, you're cohabitating the space, and thus, you know, generating different ideas. And industry wants to, you know, partner with college campuses because you've got faculty and research.
Sure. You haven't said anything about hotel. Now, I saw a mention of a hotel.
Yeah.
What's the plan? And it said hotels.
Yeah, so there's 2 hotels. So again, this view you're looking at would be from the Hotel Conference Center.
So I'm in my room looking at the.
You're in your room looking at the stadium. So the stadium would sit right between the stadium and Friars Road, and then you've got a select service. So think, you know, Holiday Inn Express or something like that. Also, the great thing is our hotel and tourism management group can use the hotels as a lab. I mean, that becomes a place that they can go down there and get real world experience as they're teaching classes and those types of things. So again, as we look at the expansion of higher education, it's tied into that as well.
And this will not only, you mentioned apartments, low income housing, but this also includes staff, administrative, staff, faculty, and student housing.
Right. So we would look, you know, we haven't figured out what that mix is. I mean, market indicates market will drive some of that, but we're definitely looking at the ability to, you know, create some residential areas where we can recruit to. And then the great thing is, you know, 40, 50, 60 years down the road, when that piece of property comes back to us and we own it outright, then that really gives you a lot more flexibility. I mean, I think one of the things you have to, you know, think about is we don't have a profit motive. There's no profit motive in San Diego State's plan. Our goal is to generate the revenue to pay for the property, so everything we make, we're putting back into San Diego State University.
That's an important point. So let's talk a little bit about infrastructure, public transportation, improvements, the trolley, and then, excuse me, and then obviously traffic concerns.
Right. So 2 things. One, the trolley's already there. I think it's the largest capacity trolley station in San Diego, because
I've come out of some sporting events.
Yes.
And it's amazing how many people that thing could move after the Padre games or the Charger games that used to be there.
Right. So
that's crazy.
So you've already got that there, and it's 3 stops from San Diego State University. We have a trolley station on campus. You have the trolley station there, so that's why it's so attractive to us that, you know, it's easy to move students, faculty, staff, researchers between main campus and other campus.
I actually didn't realize that the trolley came. I mean, it makes sense. It's kind of a no-brainer, but that it came from the stadium location right to SDSU.
Yeah, so it makes it really easy. And then, you know, as you talk about, you know, stadium events, you can utilize, because we have a lot of parking up here.
Yeah.
So you can utilize parking here. People can park here, hop on the trolley and go down and then come back, and you avoid having to, you know, get into Mission Valley or whatever it may be. And then as far as traffic mitigation, we'll go through the CEQA process. The environmental impact review will dictate what we have to do in mitigation pieces. You know, where do you have to build an on-ramp off of the 8 or the 15, or where do you have to expand a roadway? Where do you need to change an intersection, whatever that might be? We're not prescribing it in our plan. It's not something that's now set in concrete. This is something that we'll negotiate with all the different players in San Diego as we go through our environmental impact report.
So because it's not in the plan, is it possible that some are looking at that and saying, oh, they're not going to do anything about it?
Well, no, the initiative requires us to go through the CEQA process. We have to. We don't have a choice. And I mean, we would do that anyhow. That had been a commitment from ours from the beginning. But it's actually in the initiative. So the initiative passes, it becomes law that you have to do an environmental impact report, which will then dictate what we have to do with all these different pieces. We're not prescribing it to people.
So in the interest of Major League Soccer, is this venue going to be constructed in such a way that it is be able to be used for Major League Soccer, and then that's the end of the story? Is there anything, is there any back office activity going on to attempts to bring Major League Soccer here, or is it just to offer a viable location now, somebody come in and do something about it?
Well, we intentionally build it, or we intentionally have designed the concept to work for soccer and football. Really the major issue, and I love going to the MLS parks, and they're very intimate.
Yeah.
You know, it's the seating is really stacked on top of the field.
Yeah.
And I like that. And so
very
as you look at ours,
yeah,
it's something that we've done that probably the only difference between, you know, the way this stadium is conceived in, say, an LAFC is the pitch of the seats in a true soccer only stadium.
right.
It's a higher pitch, whereas football it's much lower. Well, we're right in the middle. So that's really
an interesting point. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, so that's really the only difference between what you would see in the two.
That's
we
an
think we
point.
bring, you know, to an MLS team. You look at a lot of the teams that are trying to get going. They've really struggled with how do they get a stadium.
Right.
So
well, because the standard, you know, giant 70,000 seat stadium doesn't work.
no, it doesn't work.
And they don't
Unless you're Atlanta United.
unless you're in Atlanta United. And they don't want to be on college campuses anymore. Major League Soccer isn't down for doing the college campus idea any longer. So the soccer-specific stadium or something that's this close.
Right. So this will be, you know, the good thing is it is a college campus eventually, but it's not in the true sense of what you would see on a traditional campus.
Right.
Because you'll still have the live, work, play. You're going to have a ton of residential. You're going to have people. You're not going to have students going to camp, you know, that are going to classes. You know, that's all they're doing. You're going to have this great mix of people. You're going to have mixed use retail where there's some energy, you know, on the site as well. And we're going to bring a stadium. You know, there's going to be a stadium built, and it's going to be 35,000 seats, and it's going to work for college football. It's going to work for soccer. You know, we'll be aggressively going after, you know, the international matches. And you know, we've already met with the Cholos and had a great conversation with the Cholos.
And this is a great destination for those things.
Yeah, and they would love to, you know, they'd love to be able to play more north of the border, but right now there's not really a facility that works for them.
Right.
You know, they're building, you know, once they finish all their renovations in Tijuana, they'll be at about 35,000 seats. So they look at a facility like this and say, this would be great to be able to, you know, come up and visit, you know, however many times a year potentially to play.
True.
So, you know, as far as MLS is very much aware of what we're designing, what we want to build, all the different pieces. And we've basically said that if Measure G is successful on November 6th, on November 7th, we'll reach out to MLS and say, hey, we're very interested in an MLS team coming to San Diego.
I see.
And if that's working with, you know, the current group that has the rights to a team in San Diego, the Soccer City folks, we're willing to sit down and talk with them about what it would mean for an MLS team that they're awarded to play in San Diego. If it's somebody else, whether it's a team that's moving, I mean, you just saw with kind of Columbus and Austin and how that worked out, or it's a new franchise or whatever it may be. We're interested in it. We'll look at USL as well. I mean, I want partners. I want the building busy as much as it can possibly be busy, because that's what's best for San Diego State in the long run and the stadium itself. So we're going to go out and we're going to look for the partners, and we're building a building that will work great for soccer.
So, just I don't want to. I'm sort of hesitating here because I don't want to bring up a jabbing type of a question, but if the circumstances were to take place that Measure E were to pass, how I understand that there is some considerations in that measure for the needs of San Diego State University. Your personal interest being San Diego State University, how does that play into your contentment? I mean,
Well, the initiative itself doesn't do anything for San Diego State. Now, they've stated that they would, we had a lot of conversation with them leading up to their announcement of the initiative process, and, really talked about a stadium. If Measure E were to pass, then that's obviously a conversation that probably has to happen of, are they going to build a stadium? What does that look like? Could it be something that we want to partner with them at that point? We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But, we did have some serious reservations with their stadium, with the ability to expand it in the long term. As they, it's a horseshoe shape, and they had 2 office buildings in the open end of the horseshoe, and that makes it really difficult down the road to expand. As we think we could potentially, one day we might want 40 or 45,000 seats in the stadium, and it's cost prohibitive to add the seats with the current design that they had. So that was, and then some ways that, how you wanted to operate the building and some pieces like that, there were some struggles on. So never say never in anything.
Right.
But, at this point, I think we have the best stadium plan that would work across the board for San Diego State, for soccer, for concerts, and all the different pieces.
So how much of this whole plan we discussed today is binding as far as actually going to be built if Measure G passes?
We'll build it all. I mean, everything we've talked about today, obviously there's, you have to, you deal with what the economy might be, so some things might slow down, but our plan is that we'll put a shovel in the ground January, somewhere the first quarter of 2020, and we're looking at a 15-year build out. And we'll be, our hope is, or our goal is that we would be playing in a new stadium in September of 2022.
Wow.
That's our timeline today, and then as soon as you finish that last season of 2021 in the current stadium, you knock it down and you start the rest of, getting the rest of the development ready to build out, and you move into, you start playing football in 2022, and you've got all the other vertical going up.
Right.
So I mean, and the other thing is, when in November, and San Diego State, as soon as the property is sold, we take over the operation of SDCCU. So that's a savings to the city of whatever that operational loss is. And, we're seriously considering, is something as a good faith measure to the city of San Diego and to the city council to hopefully, really move those negotiations along, as we would potentially consider taking taking over the management of the stadium July 1st of 2019, and just go ahead and take that off the books of the city. So,
which is, I understand, something like $6 million a year.
It was 3.7, I think, was the number last year. They projected it to be between 6 and 7 this year, but when the Chargers were here, they didn't market the stadium as much to have as many other events.
Right.
Last year, they did a great job of bringing in a bunch of extra events, Coldplay, U2, Winter Wonderland, some soccer match, all these different things. So they generated more revenue than they have in the past because they actually use the facility. So there's the potential that, again, this year you have a bunch of other events. You have Jay-Z and Beyonce. You have Navy Notre Dame. You have 7 Aztec football games. You do all these other events that are generating revenue going back to the stadium, and all of a sudden that $7 million that they projected is $4 or $5 million. So it's still losing money, but it's losing less. And if you can really, you really start marketing that building, you can continue to bring that number down.
Oh man, I had another question. I lost it. I'm going to be attending a San Diego Federalist Society event this evening on Cedar Street.
Okay.
It is SDSU West versus San Diego Soccer City is how it's being built.
Oh, okay.
So it should be kind of interesting. A friend of mine, Joe Totino, is going to be moderating that.
Okay.
Is there anything that we haven't discussed, that we haven't brought up, that you would like to make a comment about?
I think the biggest thing for us is just the expansion of higher education. I mean, there's no better use that we can see for the property than, taking a San Diego State and allowing it to continue to grow. And you think about what happened up in La Jolla, with UCSD, the city and the federal government gave the UC system, you know, almost 1,000 acres for campus to be, you know, built.
Yeah.
And look at what UCSD has done for San Diego today. I mean, Qualcomm basically exists today because of UCSD.
Yeah.
And you think of all the other things that have come out of UCSD and all of the, you know, biotech and genomics and all of that that's located up around UCSD. Where's San Diego today without that? So now think about San Diego State University locating, you know, an innovation and tech hub in Mission Valley to bring those types of things into Mission Valley and what that can mean for the city of San Diego going forward. So,
and outside of the city of San Diego for
right
beyond.
So, I mean, this is truly a legacy project. It's expansion of higher education as opposed to building some commercial space and some residential space and some an entertainment area to basically pay for a soccer program.
Interesting point. I remember what I was going to ask you. There's a discrepancy between both of the measures as to what fair market value is for that property. There's also a difference in the amount of acreage. It's about 100 acres difference in the amount of acreage that's being discussed. But beside that, why is there a difference in that fair market price?
Well, fair market value has not been set. So the city went out and did an appraisal that said, I think it was 82 or 83 million for the stadium site, and then the rest of it was the Murphy Canyon training facility where the Chargers used to train.
Yes.
So that's part of the discrepancy in the acreage as well. Is that's included. The other piece is the writers of the Friends of SDSU wrote that it's the sale of 132 acres. So they left the ownership of the property that is the river park with the city of San Diego, with the stipulation that San Diego State would develop and maintain the river park. So we'll develop the river park, pay for it, we'll maintain it, but that way the city owns the property and it can't ever be developed unless the city decides. Now, if somebody else owns the property, or leases the property and has it, and they choose to, there's River Park, well, maybe we'll develop, we'll start creeping in on the edges of the river parking going into it. So they looked at it and said it's a better idea for the city to hold that. Now, if the city wants us to purchase it as part of the 132 acres to take that other, then that's something that we're willing to do, and we'll discuss with them as we go through the process. And fair market value is, we're willing to, our starting point for the discussion with City Council and the mayor on fair market value, if the appraisal that they have, that's where they want to start, then we're happy to start there as well. We're committed to that.
I cannot thank you enough for inviting me and my son.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Come in and talk with you. Thank you for your time. I know this probably ran a little bit longer than I had said it might.
It's all right. We're all good.
But yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you.
This has been Greg Suddy with Study on Soccer, a voice for the fans. And thanks for watching.
Thank you. Go Aztecs.
Go Aztecs.